Okay, I'm filming the ground and you can see the vehicle moving jacks. Not really. I'll get them out later and show them later, but we've used them. They work good. Took a bit of panic out of towing the car out of the garage to service the ute. I can't remember what I was filmed last time. Now, I'm doing the power window looms one at a time. And this is the blue wire setup that I bought with the heavy duty actuators. Nice remotes. This is number 2 because Humphrey ate number 1. Just like on last Monday night, he might have eaten my brand new brake master cylinder. So I bought another one today at $270. Hence the Labradors aren't in the shed today, they're banned. Left the garage door open the other night and my good old book was found by my wife out in the front of the yard, strewn about 100 metres. Awesome. Yeah, good work, Humphrey, or Thor, or Matilda. Not sure, I think they all had a party hardy, but anyway, it's always funny when it's someone else's dog, I'm sure. Now, a couple of points to note. I'm not going to use all the wires in this system because it's just too long. And the other thing to note is here's a modern high-end central locking system, and the way they've joined the wires, quite frankly, that's what they've done. They've spliced them together and just soldered them. And frankly, I'll be honest, not a great job. Really not a great job. It was heat shrunk over, so that's what it looks like. But, you know, I would have trimmed the edge off that, got rid of the sharp edge, because that's just potential to eat through insulation. But it just goes to show, there you go, what I've been saying and doing, there you go. That's what OEMs are doing, or aftermarket are doing, still to this day. Solder is a good solid joint, works better than a crimp. I know there's arguments about that, but anyway. That doesn't mean crimps are bad, or there are bad crimps. There's some very good crimps, particularly Enviro crimps, but they're really expensive. We use them in aviation. Very, very expensive. The pliers alone cost me $260. You don't need them for your car. But anyway, that's another issue. So what I'm going to do, having a look at this, it's a pretty simple wiring diagram. You know, dot the dot, the green and blue wires which actuate all the passenger doors, 3 of, and in fact the driver's door, all come from one source point here. That being said, I can now feel free to cut this loom so I can fit it into the power window loom, and then we can wrap it all up together, and you know, no one will be the better. We're not going to have a loom parallel to another loom. Sort of kicking myself now that I didn't think to do this earlier, because I could have integrated it better into this loom. So I'm just going to have to wrap it up separately, then zip tie it and piggyback it, whatever. I should have thought, but I'm not going to unwrap that one to install this one. Ditto the stereo. So that's where we're up to now. I've just strung this out, put a couple of zip ties on it so I can see which is what. The 2 longest ones, well, I'm saying here, this loom here from this joint here, pretty rough with it blue, this will be passenger side. And this one here, I'll just make the driver's side. It's got more than enough cable in it to do both. So then I'll cut each one separate and integrate it into the respective power window loom. And I might even start fitting these into place so I know just how much wire I need inside the door and how to feed it. So it's just planning, really, with this. I'm not going to feed it like an aftermarket, you know, if the car was all together. I've got the advantage of the car being in bits, so we will plan this properly. Well, that looks like a hell of a mess at the moment. We'll get there. Oh, my Bathurst is on. Righto, small update on looms. So I've done 3 of the power window looms and put them in the car. This is the master one, hence it's got the bigger switch pad, and it's the last one to be unwrapped, cleaned up. I've done a couple of solders on it, and also integrating the central locking loom into this loom. Now a couple of points which are just to cover off on mistakes I've done in the past with these bloody things. Pay particular attention to these bungs, these grommets. I'm having all sorts of trouble finding new ones, so I gave up. I managed to cement this one back together and it'll be fine. But there's a couple of tricks. One of them, when you're doing the rear looms, and here's one, and this is the most damaged one I've got. So if this is as bad as we look, well, we didn't do too bad. When you install them or uninstall them, you go in through here. I don't know if you can see that in the footage, you probably can't. But you need to get access to both sides of the grommet to work it in and out. Now, for the rear doors, you need to go through the pillar. So you start both ends out here and you feed the door end this way and then the car to a pillar through here. And then using the seatbelt access hole, you can feed the loom. And it's all nicely wrapped up in the new fibre tape or bodybuilder's tape. And there's the loom for the rear right-hand door with the 2 wires for the central locking system. Ditto the rear left, but the front doors are different. So the front doors, you need to feed the entire loom through the door here. You can pick here if you know, have to be here. And then feed the wire in through the pillar. One-handed filming yet again, always genius, Blue. Make a liar of me, you bloody thing. There we go. Yep, so we've managed to get that in. Don't want to pull it through on the sharp edge of the car body. The last thing you want to do is damage wires, which I'm sure is probably what caused mine in the past. So this original system, I transposed onto this car. The car didn't have power windows. I transposed it from a Fairlane that I wrecked 20-something years ago. So I thought I'll take the goodies out of the Fairlane and put them into the Fairmont. And back in the day, that Fairlane was written off because it had a bit of cancer in the A-pillars, but these days it'd be rescued, be considered a bloody good find. But anyway, I think it went to God. In fact, I know it went to God. Right, so now you can see, okay, we're basically fed. And so now when I get my other hand back, I'll be pushing on this end, getting my hand up in here and pulling on this end, and I use a bit of lanolin. Makes it nice and slippery, won't hurt anything, won't hurt the rubber, won't hurt the wires, won't hurt your car. In fact, good for your car. And this one here, that's pretty much right. So it's sitting how it should. I don't know if you can just see the grooves there, so that looks good. Now I couldn't find the sort of sleeving I wanted either, so I'm just having a look now actually at this door while I'm here as to how it's going to function, and I think that's going to function pretty much all right. Just looking at that, that's okay. I managed to recover some of the old sheathing, just a segment of it, and I'll attach that into that hole there, to hold it in tight. Now I thought initially it should go on the inside, but on the left hand door, for some reason, my left hand door, I don't know if it's an anomaly or not, but I've only got the hole on the outside. So bringing it in under the bloody mechanism didn't seem to be the go for the left hand door. However, the right hand door, well, it's different, and I don't see why, and I can't be bothered thinking about it too much. I just want to get some progress. As you can see, I've tucked it under and there's a hole specifically for that. So I don't know if it's just an anomaly with this door or not. It's certainly a 78 model door, but it doesn't have a mounting hole, and I don't want to go drilling new holes into the car if I can avoid it. I mean, we're still not hard fix on this, so I can take this out very easily and go the other way. I'll have a bit of a think about that because we're not completely installed yet, just to make them look both the same. But you know, maybe that's meant to be that hole there, that dent. Probably is actually when I think about it. So maybe they, I don't know, got me knackered. Does it matter? Not sure. We'll give this more thought. We'll think about it. So the other planning bit of this is bringing the loom for the power window master switch, master actuator, which has got the 5 wires to it, set up right, and that's what I've been doing. So for the rear doors, you have this up around the switch, actually, believe it or not, because that's where the actuator sits, and with this one you have it down behind the plug for the actual power window motor. And back in the day, I was thinking of it then, you know, I've added this earth into the loom. It's rubbish connection, but I was thinking even then, gee, it's a weak earth. All the earth for all the motors comes out of this loom, or the main feed loom, which is on the dash. And the other consideration I have, this is the actuator, or yeah, the actuator device for the power locks, and trying to find a location where that fits is proving problematic. I'm probably going to put it here. It won't be seen. The steering column sits in the way here. It'll be pretty incognito, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, but pretty tucked away, but would be able to get access to it without too much difficulty. The remote control, however, I've got all sorts of problems. That's a far bigger box than I would have liked. And I'm afraid once that thing goes in, I might be a bit stuck. So I've really got to think about what I'm going to do with this, but frankly at the moment, that's about the only location for it. And then I've got to integrate this wiring into the two systems. My aim is to put the stereo in, that unit in, the wiring for the ignition system, also put it into the dash before I put the dash in the car. That's where I'm going at the moment with this whole thing. So front doors feed the entire loom into the door, out of the door, into the pillar. Rear doors, both from the outside to into the door, into the pillar. Take the seatbelt out. I don't know if that's helped anyone, but yeah, might save you bungs in the future. What's the other anomaly I found? This wire here is number 330. It's the right hand power window switch, master switch to rear door switch. Bizarrely, it doesn't have one on the other loom, but it's on the schematic. It's that one there, number 320. I don't get it, but they're all the same. They've all got 5 wires going to 5-pin plugs at the back, so it worked before. I'm going to assume it does again. I don't understand that fully, why that would be missing. So anyway, we'll clean this up. Oh, that was the other thing. Blue wire. Really? Have a go. Seriously? So all 4 wires to green and blue, which is just the door actuators, went there. I'm going, that's rubbish. Sorry. That's junk blue wire. Anyway, we'll make it prettier than that, but sure, solder together, that's fine, but that's a really rubbish solder. And I've just pulled 2 of the other wires off that, they just came off. So yeah, not good enough for what's supposed to be a high-end bit of kit. Anyway, righto, so before I go and chuck the retro sound into the dash, because I've had a good read, it can go in before the dash is installed to the car, I thought I'd hook it up, and it's somewhat a bit confusing. It's yet again with these aftermarket things, the wiring diagrams aren't the greatest, but what I've worked out with the amplifier, we go to this page here, and you plug it up as per this instruction here. You ignore, actually you don't ignore anything really, except you ignore these. You don't need these. I went and bought cables for these. Forget that, we're not using them. The RCA outs, because it's all loomed up to go. But quite bizarrely, the hot connections and the ignition source are at the amplifier. Well, there's a little problem. The amplifier is going to get mounted to the back of this car in this one. So I'm going to have to run wires to the amplifier from in front of the car and then back ignition source, because there's no ignition sourced wiring goes to the back of the car. So that's interesting to say the least. Anyway, the other thing I don't understand, it says it wants you to, well, I could be wrong about that. Yeah, it does. It wants this blue white wire connected, but it's connected through the loom. I'm sort of not sure, but it works. So at the moment it's hooked up as if it's got, you know, constant power, good voltage supply through those two there. There's plenty of volts. And if I just try and use two hands, I have noticed one problem with it. So we go and turn it on, and there you go, it's on, but we can see the problem straight away. The display's buggered. So I'll ring them up and go, really, what is going on there? So I've got it to work, a couple of speakers hooked up. I'm going to muck around with it now, but that's pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. This thing was not cheap. This was extra. See, there you go. So that's effectively saying ignition on. Yep. So now it doesn't power back up until you ask it to, and you ask it to. So it appears to all work except for that bloody display. So I think that's somewhat annoying. Anyway, I'll ring them up, because there's no point fitting it if it's busted. Bloody hell. Anyway, at least I know where I'm going to mount that and how I can put the wiring in, so I can go ahead and do that. Unfortunately, it seems pointless fitting this actual unit, because it would appear that it's broken. The display doesn't do what it should do. Most annoying. Anyway. Oh, where the hell are we at? Retro sound, we'll start there. So, a couple of things about this. If you've got the amplifier, and the book was a little confusing, but I'll just try and simplify it. It powers amplifier back to head unit. So the heavy yellow wire, being that one which goes through, has a connector here which I'll probably get rid of, I don't need it, and then all the way down to there, go out to the engine bay. That is now your always power on hot to battery. And what was confusing is you've got these two plugs, which I've now removed. I've just cut this loom off, forget it, not required, but this went into this loom here. And this second plug here, I'll just get rid of that in my hands. There it is there. The only wire relevant to me is the red one. Because on the other side of the plug, you'll notice that the yellow and black aren't even there. That's because they're not required. Because the power and the earth come out of the main loom. All this red wire does is a trigger for ignition on. That's it. So it's not even connected back through the plug. So why they did that, I don't know. Now these two blue wires are also trigger wires if you're going to run more amps or an active sub or something like that. I'm not doing that, not required. Also, not required. So, hot wired the red wire, boom, boom, boom. I'm actually going to use some of the original loom where I won't be using it again, and I've just got a termination down here to marry to a cigarette lighter. I don't smoke. So there won't be a cigarette lighter connected or used. That'll have more than an ample enough amount of power for a trigger wire, given that's the main feed wire, and then that feeds back to the head unit. Done. So now all I've got to do is wire in all the speakers, and obviously I'm going to have to solder wires to wires, blah blah blah, but that's it. Tested it, it works. Yellow wire on, you get nothing activates. Hit the red wire, or connect the red wire as well, boom, everything works. Bluetooth, hands-free, the unit works good, the warranty work's been fine. I've got to work out exactly what I'm going to do with these yet, whether I bother connecting a USB in, because it's Bluetooth, you don't really need to. Aux 1 and Aux 2, to be honest with you, there's sort of options that, I don't know, if you've got Bluetooth on your phone, my music's on my phone, pretty much that's it. You really don't need them, to be honest with you. And there's the microphone there, which I'll get fitted up into the pillar. We'll work that out a bit later. It might have to clip onto the visor, but I'd rather have it more hidden. But in the meantime, we've got it routed in and put somewhere where it'll go up onto the pillar as it goes there. Next thing, the ICE ignition control module and ignition booster sit inside the glove box. So all these wires connect to the ICE system. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm still missing one plug here yet. I need to go back through and check my looms out, because I'm fairly certain there were 6 connectors. Let's just double check that, I suppose, before we go any further. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, correct. I need to go and see if I've missed a loom somewhere. Unless that's a double. No, it's not. Alright, I need to get to the bottom of that one yet. Unless it wasn't required. It's not required. That's for the two-step limiter. Not required, not using it. That's so you can set the ICE ignition up so that you can put your foot down, it'll hold whatever RPM you set into the box, dump the clutch, and it's for dragging. I'm not going to drag the car. So no, that's all correct. Thought so. So now I'm just trying to position the loom so it's going to be sorted out for internal systems, not into the normal loom. So to a separate loom, going to that relay box I've talked so much about. All this stuff will be going mostly to that. Now the other thing I've got to add in is the Holy Sniper bits that go into the car, which will be the control module. You don't want to do it from, the engine bay. It'll have to come in, so I'll work that out. Another thing I've done is I've put an Anderson, I believe they're called an Anderson power supply plug. So like I said, I really didn't like what was originally in the car. So on the car side, on the inside, we've got this. And when I connected this up, I did solder, just got a blowtorch actually, filled the plugs with hot solder, put the wire in, let it cool down, heat shrink over its bum, job done. So just be careful using a blowtorch, obviously. And now, I know it looks messy, but because I've been doing too many jobs at once, on the power supply side of it, now I've run 8G wire all the way out to the engine, and I'll be running a couple of these little puppies, 8G wire, 60 amp fuses for protection of that system as well. So you've got to have some sort of protection, so they'll come in. So all I'm going to do in the interim is just wire this up to the point where it hits the battery. It's not relevant. So that I can then build up the engine bay wiring from the battery on, or the relay box. So speaker wire, I'll be using that in a second. So it is starting to, even though it still doesn't look it, it's starting to really come forward. So the next thing is put the glove box in, just make sure I can plug everything up, get the Holley system out, look at its schematic, and have a look at the wiring for the Holley to go inside the car. And it'll just be a loom, a plug and play thing, and I've just got to work out where it's got to go. So here's cruise control. It's all nicely wrapped up. That goes into the console. Again, I've actually used, this is the original radio wiring. The cruise control, I think I might have mentioned this before, is 3 amp. So I'm going to use that for the cruise. It really doesn't consume much power, that thing. So it's factory wired into the original ignition where the original radio supply came from, which now, of course, got this dirty big heavy wire going out to the engine bay. So that's that. What else we got? Pretty much it. All the power window motors are back in. Got all new. I got one new cogs. One was stripped. $50. The Australian tax yet again. I didn't film it. I've just put it back together. It's in the car already. I can't remember everything. So on now. We'll get the glove box. Work out the speaker loom. Work out where the Holley's going to go. Oh, one more thing. So the modification to the air conditioning system is now sorted out. So this is the aircon compressor wire. It goes to a switch, a pneumatic switch in the car on the aircon box. There. And the other side of that, I've hot wired, and they are those two little blue plugs there. And the reason I did that, and that pink wire is the factory earth that goes into the, probably all boring to this, most people are going, really? Shut up, whatever. That goes, why pink goes to black, I don't know, but that's the earth supply feed for the fan control switch. And the other ones, I've got into this mod that I've put, oh God, there's stuff everywhere, blue. Here, and I've tested this as well. So that's your fascia for your fan, and I've wired this so that what this does, by bypassing that pneumatic switch, I can run the aircon compressor on a hot selection, which is important because it'll defrost. I think I spoke about that later. So you could be over here, but I'll still be able to run the compressor by bypassing using that button. And the light just lights up by using a basic earth, and there is the feed I made there. Doesn't need to be insulated because it's earth, right? And that's where it comes out there onto the main earth connector, aka same with the central locking system. You know, if you're not modifying a car, you won't have all this stuff, but if you want to retro your car and do hands-free and, you know, hide a quadraphonic amplifier and have Righto. Here goes the big test. I'm pretty happy with that.